All right, guys, and welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of the Midfield 4 podcast. Big one today, pre-season predictions, ones that might make us look very smart, ones that might make us very stupid in about 9 months. So yeah, we'll crack straight into it. Jamil, again, isn't with us, still on holiday. Just spoke to him briefly. He's enjoying himself. He's still alive. Don't worry about him. Yeah, we'll have him back soon in a couple of weeks. So yeah, just the three of us again today. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. Matt, firstly, how are you doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Just can't wait for tomorrow for when the season starts. Obviously, we kick it off against Palace, so that'll be a fun one. And yeah, really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, how's come around quickly. Yeah, I'm all right, thinking the same. Looking forward to the weekend. Tay, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm very well. Looking forward to this weekend for sure. 100%.
Yeah, good stuff. And I'm looking forward to the show, to be fair. It's always a fun one to record. So we'll get straight into it. So we've all got our 1 to 20s. So we're going to go through them first, starting with talking about the top 6, then working our ways down the league towards the relegation places at the end. And then we've got some categories to discuss at the end, such as golden boot, top assist maker, signing of the season, whatever. We'll get onto that in a bit. So yeah, we'll start with the top of the table, which I suppose is what a lot of people are here for. So we've all got our 1 to 20 sorted, so I'm going to come to Matt and Tay first, see what their top 6s are, and then we'll discuss together, see what we think. Tay, I'll come to you first. Give me your top 6 in reverse order.
In reverse order. So this could, again, this goes for every category I mentioned. This could vary based on the transfer window. Still open for another, nearly a month now. And it is tight this year. I feel like this is the year where the teams outside of Liverpool and City have made moves to, push in and break into that same bracket, So starting off in 6th, I've got Manchester United. I don't think they've done enough for me so far. And I think, Ten Hag could be an excellent project, but it's way too early to tell. First season's always going to be a team stage. In 5th, controversially, I know this might be controversially, and it could change. I've got Arsenal. I think they'll have an excellent season, but I can't. It's between them and Tottenham for me, I think. Moving on, I've got Tottenham in 4th. I don't understand the whole title challenging stuff. I think they're a good squad, but I think there are a few players behind, personally. So I've got Tottenham in 4th, and I will elaborate on that later. 3rd, I've got Chelsea. I think people are writing them off way too quickly. They're spending. I'm not too sure on the idea of their signings, but they're spending a lot of money, and this is a big season for them under a new owner. I think this is a season where Tuchel, if he hasn't already proven himself, which I believe he has, if there's any scrutiny whatsoever, I think he's going to show exactly what type of caliber manager he is, which is, world class. 2nd, I've got Liverpool. I think we're just going to fall short of City again. I think, number 1, I think City will win it again, personally. But this is before they've sold Bernardo Silva. If they do, I think that actually had a massive influence on the rest of the season. But yeah, that's my top 6. But I think you could swap anyone between 3rd and 5th, and I wouldn't be annoyed.
So I do assume that's City in 1st, not West Ham or Newcastle.
Yeah, of course, Manchester City.
Just to be sure. Matt, coming to you 2nd.
I've actually gone for West Ham first now. So you've got United 6th. I think so, just a no-brainer one there. I'd be intrigued to see how far, if West Ham can, break that. I guess that top 6 or that traditional top 6 more or less will be interesting to see, because with United, obviously, we spoke about them endlessly, but as Tay said, I don't think they've done near enough. I don't think, pretty much what you said, I think last week, Ethan, that, they've addressed areas, but the areas they've addressed will be 4th, 5th, 6th on your priority list. So for that reason particularly, I don't see them causing any sort of damage to the top 5. And then exactly what Tay said, I think I've gone for the bias side here, but to be honest, I was trying to do a thread on my predictions as well. I can't distinguish between 5th, 4th and 3rd. I can't. Yeah. 1 and 2 is no-brainer for me. I don't get people who say Spurs are coming 2nd, and honestly, I'm an Arsenal fan, right? But I don't really care for Spurs like that. Obviously, Derby Day and stuff, and I don't like them obviously, but I don't have a reason to play them down or anything like that. I just genuinely don't get the top 2 or anything like that coming from people, and I think people really underestimate quite how good Liverpool and City are. I think it's better to say about that for now, because the rest of the 3 you could argue anyway. But I think people really underestimate quite how good Liverpool and City have been for this period of time. And some people seem to think Liverpool are going to magically flourish away They've got Salah, who, in my opinion, we'll get onto it later with the top goal scoring stuff, will flourish like as good as he did when he had that crazy season. When they signed Nunes, sure they lost Mane, but that's about it. And you know, a midfielder, of course. But I don't know where people get the idea they could, you know.
Sorry to interrupt quickly. Literally, just a really, really quick point. Everyone seems to think City are going to win the league or come in the top two 100%. With the idea of Liverpool dropping out of the top two, I don't understand. It was a 1 point gap last season, a singular point. I think it's made out to be much more than that. But
I'll get onto this, but I don't think, you know, Mane has obviously been a fantastic player for Liverpool over the years. But at the level he was playing at last season, I don't think it's a loss, but it's not like a massive loss. And if Nunes can hit the ground running, you know, I think you'll be fine. And people are saying Nunes is the Mane replacement. I actually think Diaz is the Mane replacement, really. Yeah. And we've seen that he's hit the ground running straight away. And I think if Nunes, providing he does do well, I don't think Mane will be as massive loss as people are saying. I don't think it's detrimental at all. I think they replace well. I think you'll still.
I think we've got to be honest as well with Mane. Unbelievable player in the Premier League, and I don't want to go off topic here, so I'll just very quickly say this. But I feel like people overstated how good he was for Liverpool last season. 100%. I think he had a brilliant second, like half the period of the season. I think that consisted of United and a few other games where he looked like he found this new arc as a number 9. But I don't think that was too long term, really. It was just a few game period where it was like, wow, he looks flawless.
Well, I think moving into the middle for Diaz to be on the left sort of did show that it was time to maybe move on.
Yeah,
that's probably been the right decision there, thinking about it. At the time, I was like, wow, that's a massive loss. But when I've thought about it a little bit more, I think they'll be all right. But anyway, carry on with and then we'll get on to Liverpool in a minute.
And with Mane, first half of the season, I also thought that was overrated. I thought he put up some good numbers, of course, but I remember the Leeds game, he was really struggling with confidence. There were games this season where I didn't think he was too amazing. And I get it's a numbers game per se, but I think it is deeper than that. And I think people did over-exaggerate his impact on Liverpool. Obviously not overall, just the last season. So for that reason, I'm torn as well who comes second or first between the two. Because last season I backed Liverpool and City edged it. Or not even, well, yeah, literally edged it. And this season, once again, I really don't think there's a wrong answer between the two. Because City have supposedly weakened themselves, but
you can't sit on the fence here, mate.
It's because I want to go for City because I went for Liverpool last season. I feel like City are just that good. But I'll go for City. But then, yeah, third, fourth, fifth, I've gone Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs. But I've quite literally shifted this round about 3 or 4 times. I'm still a bit confused with that because Chelsea will no doubt spend, and they'll spend more. Who they sign will be interesting too because I think they need another attacker. I'm not so sure about Tuchel, to be fair. After last season, some of his decisions in game was really questionable. So if he persists with that, that could be a bit of a concern. I saw some people say, he could be one of the managers to get sacked early on as well. So I have to see with that. It'll be interesting. But very torn with that. With Spurs, I think not signing a creative player and a left centre-back, I think that was an opportunity to really go big on a Bastoni, which fair enough, he didn't want to come. And not in like a malicious way there, just, being at Inter his boyhood club. And Gvardiol cost a lot of money. But I think even an Indica would have been far better of a pick-up than just getting Longley for a season. I don't know, it screams a bit confusing to me. And the creative part is absolutely massive, really. So, yeah, I'd put Spurs 4th, 5th. It could come 3rd too, because obviously Son and Kane.
I want a straight answer. She's have Spurs 5th there.
I put Spurs 5th, but I feel like that's also relying on a Kane injury at some point in the season with the World Cup and stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, those two. As I said, Arsenal 3rd, I think, done brilliant business. We'll sign a few more as well. And yeah, I'm incredibly happy with us and where we're at the moment. I think we're in great preparation for the season as well, which I think is important. And 4th, Chelsea, I feel like people write them off too much because it's just too easy to write off a side, which is a bit of a confusing one, but they always manage to pull out the bag. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you haven't copied either of mine, so mine is slightly different. I've got United in 6th. I think if we sign a few more, we definitely could be in the chance of top 4, but we need like 2 or 3 more in the right areas, but we haven't got that right now, so I can't say that. So I'd say we'll be about 5 or 6 points off 5th, which I've got Arsenal, and then I've got Chelsea 4th. No, Tottenham 4th, Chelsea 3rd. No, sorry. Tottenham 3rd, Chelsea 4th, Arsenal 5th. But I think within those three teams, it's going to be about 2, 3, 4 point gap. I think it's going to be very, very close, and it will go right down to the end. So the only reason I've missed Arsenal out is because of what happened last season, and the fact that getting into top 4 for Arteta is absolutely huge at this point. I feel like this season is absolutely massive for him. I don't know if they have not the mentality, but I feel like if you're Conte or you're Tuchel, you're more likely to drag a team over the line in those last couple of games. But there's literally nothing in it at all. But we'll get onto that again.
It's really, speaking of like third, fourth, and fifth, we're just assuming it is those three teams in any order. I just realised how big it is for all of the managers. Like, I'd argue, given they're all in the job at the end of the season, which I imagine they will be, if either of those three finish outside the top 4, I think that's pivotal towards like their job going into the next season.
There's no way that those three managers are all there at the start of next season.
No.
At least one will be gone, if not 2, I think. But that's just off the basis of it's just so close, and it might come down to the last couple of games. So Arsenal just miss out. Tottenham third by a point, say. I'm not saying they're way better than the other two. I think it's really, really tight. I've got Liverpool second as well and City first. I think the gap between them might be about 4 or 5 points. I know a lot of people are saying City are going to absolutely run away with it this year, but I don't even necessarily think they've got massively better either. I think both teams are just still very, very strong. Obviously, City have recruited well, but they've still lost big players too. As I just mentioned with Liverpool, you know what you're going to get with them. They're still a top side. So, yeah, that's mine. You
know what? I just want to very quickly add something with City. I didn't really say this at the time, but with City, obviously, we've spoken about them weakening themselves potentially, but I thought that Liverpool game was a really interesting, obviously it's pre-season per se, but I thought it was really interesting because the way City exploited Liverpool's high line in the first half I think it was the Etihad game last season, they got in behind so many times, they just didn't take their chances, but they didn't, like the way I think Grealish was playing, he wasn't really getting in behind. Foden came on, that improves things, and I think he'll be a massive part of City. But I think they've taken away those profiles and they've made themselves far more predictable. 2 ball-to-feet wingers is a very questionable strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think Haaland and Alvarez are top signings. I think Phillips is also a top signing. But Phillips is essentially replacing Fernandinho, who was so big for them. And like you said, they have already lost Sterling, they've lost Jesus, and they've now lost Zinchenko as well. So I don't think they've got massively better, to be honest. We'll talk about Haaland, especially in a bit when we get to the Golden Boot race. But yeah, I think you'd be brave to back against City this year, but Liverpool will be right there as always. And you are right, none of the others are close. Spurs, I did put third, but I do agree. I don't think their business is as good as it's made out to be. I think Richarlison is a good signing. Providing he's happy to be essentially second fiddle, because I don't see how many Premier League games he's going to start. I've mentioned that before. I think Basuma's a class signing. I think Spence is a weird one because I don't even think Conte really knows much about him based on what I've seen so far. But, he's got the capabilities and the qualities to play in that system, bombing forward down the right-hand side. So, if it works, it could work. Well, it didn't cost that much, so it's not really that important. Forster, backup keeper, whatever. Perisic, if it works, left wing back, if he stays fit, if he gets enough minutes, I think that's a good signing. They haven't strengthened enough to pull them away. I've seen some people putting them in a strong third place. I disagree with that. And I think there's very little with those three teams, like I said. And as for Chelsea, if they do land some of the names they've been after, their squad will be looking very strong. But I do doubt whether Todd Bowley really knows where he's going with these signings and, what he's actually trying to do with this team. With Arsenal, there's a clear process of what they want to do, what sort of profiles they want. It does feel like Todd Bowley's sort of playing a bit of Football Manager at this point, just bringing in who he can. And I don't really believe that he's actually just going off who other people want, but I don't know. He might be, he might not be, but if they
I think
do,
he's just trying to make statements. Because like City wouldn't pay 10 million, trying to hijack Richarlison, interested in De Jong, see where that goes. Jesus.
Yeah.
So many other names, not even the meme.
They are massive names, and I do get that. I think he is trying to show that, look, I'm the same, I can compete. But Tuchel's obviously not too happy at the minute. They've just bought Cucurella, good signing, very, very high mine price. I think I saw 55 million plus 7 million in add-ons, might make him the most expensive fullback ever, which is mental. But he will improve them for sure, but whether they're going to use him as a left centre-back or a left wing-back, I'm not too sure. So, again, it's very early days, especially when it comes to United. There obviously will still be business to be done. I'm sure we'll sign another 1 or 2 more, so you can ask me again at the end of the window whether I think that will change much. But right now, we are way off, and it is concerning. Again, we spoke about them to death on here, and to be honest, I just want to get to the game on Sunday now. I'm bored of talking about transfers, but it is concerning. Our number 1 striker, Martial, who most people would have said needed to go a couple of months ago. He's now becoming our number one striker. That's big enough of a problem. Even more of a problem that he's now injured, and you've now got Ronaldo who doesn't want to be there. So, we're looking at Sancho just come back from an illness. So we're looking at one fully fit first teamer for Sunday, which is just brilliant. So it's not looking good for us at the minute. So yeah, I can't put us anywhere higher than safe. I don't think we'll drop out of top 6. I think that's pretty mad. I've seen a few people putting a few outrageous shouts in there. The only team I think could finish above us is West Ham, which we'll get onto in a minute. But I don't see anyone else really breaking in the top 6 this season. But yeah, that's the top 6 done. Then if there's anything else you want to add, I think Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham will be very close, especially Chelsea have probably got some more business to do, so that could change things. But all 3 are looking pretty strong. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out. So yeah, let us know what you think of those predictions. Hope there's not anything too outrageous in there, but good to have some variety. We're going to talk about the rest of the top half teams now. So these are sort of teams that we don't think are anywhere near in trouble of getting relegated, and teams that are going to look to push into the European places. So I'll start now from 10th up. I've got Leicester in 10th, who we spoke about last time. Get onto them. Get onto all these teams in a bit more detail in a minute. I've got Crystal Palace in 9th, which might be slightly surprising. And I've got Newcastle in 8th, West Ham in 7th. So I'll come to you guys and then we can discuss in a bit more detail. So Tay, I'll come to you first. 10th,
Right.
7th.
So what I've got written down was 2 weeks ago, and I'm actually going to change it. So I'm going to have Brighton in 10th, which is a bit of a surprising one. But I think this is the year they really could kick on under pot. Again, given the transfer window in the state they're in right now, I think they could finish in 10th. On my list here, I've got Leicester in 7th, but I'm actually going to have them 9th now. I still think they've got a better squad than the people below them, and arguably the 2 teams are going to have above them as well. But no signings. Rodgers, questions about him. I'm going to put Leicester in 9th. In 8th, bit of a broad one. I'm going to go for Newcastle, which I don't know how outlandish that is, but I think there is just a real process behind their team now and the way they play in the direction. And I think they will spend a bit more money before the window ends as well. And in 7th, I've got West Ham, who again speak for themselves really.
Well, yeah, 2 agreements there then in 7th and 8th. Matt, I'll come to you and then we can discuss a bit more.
I think we've more or less got the same teams in there bar Leicester. I've got Brighton 10th, Newcastle 9th, Palace 8th, and West Ham 7th. I think West Ham self-explanatory. Palace is also quite self-explanatory. I mean, the work he's done in such a short space of time is really, really impressive. The young project he's guided towards. Once again, some great signings as well. From Lens, I've got his name.
Decore, yeah.
Decore, that's it. Really good signing.
Yeah, I mean, we can touch on West Ham because we all had them in 7th place in agreement. I don't think there'd be too many people that will disagree with this. And like I just said a minute ago, I think if anyone is to break into the top 6 this season, it will be them. I think they've shown what a brilliant team they really are. It was it 6th the year before and then 7th last year? That's brilliant achievement, especially considering last year they had a very, very deep run in Europe. And,
with one of the Finnish squads.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Then Moyes has done a tremendous job there, and the signings they have made this summer in Aguerd, the centre back, looks very, very good. Skamaka, fantastic signing, one of the signings of the summer for sure, one of the most sought after strikers in Europe. Getting him down to the London Stadium is a massive, massive coup for them, and I'm not sure how they're going to make it work with Antonio, but Antonio was playing about 55 games a season when he can't really do that.
He was burnt. He was so burnt.
Yeah, and I think Skamaka will bring out a better Mikel Antonio as well because they'll actually get a bit of rest. They're still linked with Filip Kostic. Not quite sure what's going on there, but if they were to get him in, that would also be a fantastic signing, and I'm sure a few more will follow as well. But based on their squad now, their manager, their form over the last few seasons, plus a few additions, I think 7th. Yeah, again, the Europa Conference League, their fans will be excited for it. It might end up being a slight inconvenience, but we'll have to see how they get on in that. But even if they go deep, I still think 7th is definitely achievable. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
I just want to add, I forgot his name, but why is he wanting to go to Everton over?
Oh yeah, man, that's mad.
I get game time.
It's got to be a Frank Lampard profile, isn't it? I don't understand otherwise why he was.
I'll be honest.
Yes, if you guys don't know, 33 million midfielder Onana, I believe it is, from Lille. Yeah, West Ham had agreed a deal, but he has chosen to join Everton, strangely enough. And Everton we'll get onto in a bit, but definitely a club not in as good stead as West Ham are right now. But yeah, West Ham is 7th. I'm sure their fans will be very happy with that, especially if they have a deep run in Europe and a deep run in the Cups again. The way that Moyes has turned it around is phenomenal. We spoke about them a lot at the back end of last season. So yeah, If you've been
Just a question. With West Ham, we've all got them 7th. I think they're in that gap of they're not going to finish lower than 7th, but not quite sure they'll break into the top 6. But why don't we have them not why don't we have them in the top 6 per se, but what do you think West Ham need to do to get to that next level and get into the top 6?
I think even more depth, to be fair. I mean, they have only bought 2 or 3 in. It's not solved all of their issues. It's just given more depth in the areas that they really did need. Obviously, centre-back was a massive one as well last season with obviously O'Connor's injury. And striker was, glaring. They did need that. So, yeah, I think more depth.
I would add as well, they've, I don't know if it's not official yet, but they've activated the release clause of Maxwell Cornet as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's just come out today, wasn't it? Yeah, I think that's a great sign as well to provide competition on the wing, especially they've lost Yarmolenko as well. So Yarmolenko is definitely a lot worse off than Cornet. I think that's a good upgrade. So yeah, West Ham are looking good, but I don't think they're quite ready to break into the top 6. I mean, it depends what we do, to be fair. If we don't sign anyone else, then there's every chance they can finish above us, but they will only do that because we're bad, essentially. If they really want to reach that level, I think they do need a couple more signings. But
could you not say, though, for this season, that keeping Rice is like a massive new signing type because of the influence that guy has? The fact they've managed to keep him this summer, I can't, Chelsea.
I'm not even sure anyone even wants him.
Probably just because of the price tag, to be honest.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
think whatever way you look,
see what happens with him in the end. But it seems like a topic as every transfer window now. It is getting a bit tedious. But obviously, West Ham keeping him is massive for them. Still one of the best players in his position in the league. Yeah, I completely agree. I think they're the best of the rest, and I think in the future they could look at breaking into the top 6. But they have got to stay humbled a little bit, considering only a few years ago they were hoping to stay in the league every year, which is, again, they shouldn't be down there because they're a far big club to be down there. But it's good to see them finally on the right track. It's a club I've got a lot of respect for, a lot of admiration for, and it's good to see them doing well. I think we all agree with Newcastle in 8th as well. For me, obviously that's going off the back end of last season where their form was, it was European standard. They haven't gone mental in the transfer market. Pope and Botman being the 2 main ones. Have they bought anyone else in? I'm forgetting about there.
They were linked with Sulemana the other day, and
they're trying for everyone out there.
They
really want to win. I don't know.
Who's that striker from Reims who went to PSG?
Yeah, Ekitike.
That's it.
But even with only those 2 additions, I'm sure it will still be more. But add that onto the season they had last season. Eddie Howe's doing a brilliant job there, and it's just continuation for me, really, there. 2 great signings to add to an already good team. Matt Target on a permanent was the other one I've just completely forgot about, but he was already there. But yeah, they're looking good. I think they'll be more consistent this season. Their players are still improving. Eddie Howe's doing a great job. And obviously, in the future, they'll be looking to break into the top 6. But for now, I think 8th shows steady progress. So I think they'll be happy with that. Anything more to add on that before we move on?
I think their home record last season was absolutely unbelievable since Howe took over. So I think that'll be one to look out for too. Is that one which will be like, St. James's is a fortress again. And, it's always going to be an irritating away place to go to. But will it be, the level of what was unbeaten last season in a way, by like 1 game or 2 games since he took over, which is crazy. If you have that sort of home record, that goes a long way to finishing, at the very least, in the top half of the table.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see that club finally getting the love it deserves, to be fair. Obviously, we've had our rivalries with them in the past, but all rivalries aside, it's good to see them finally getting the attention and love they deserve because they are a massive club with a big fan base. St James's Park deserves to be a fortress because of how good their fans are and how great the stadium is. So yeah, 8th this season for me. Could be higher. I'm sure it will be higher in the future, but 8th for now, and I'm sure they will add a few more, which we'll touch on as and when it happens. So I think me and Matt had Palace both in the top 10. I had them in 9th. You had them in 8th. Yeah. You've already mentioned them briefly, but again, I think last season they were fantastic. They've made good additions as well. They've bought Richards from Bayern Munich, centre back, and they've also bought in Chet Decore, Sam Johnston as well. Not quite sure if he's going to be first or second choice, but again, some really, really solid additions. Haven't gone mental, just adding to the team that they had last season. A lot of people were concerned about the loss of Conor Gallagher, but I think the signing of Decore is the more profile that they need as well. Obviously, Gallagher likes to run forward, get into the box, but I think a player like Decore, more of a sitting player essentially, will give more license to their attackers, which we know, they've got so many promising attackers like Elise, they've got Eze, they've got Edouard, they've got Teta. They've just bought Malcolm Abui from Derby as well. Might have butchered that pronunciation, but haven't seen much of him. But when I saw him in the pre-season friendly against United, he was very, very bright. So just another name to throw into that never-ending list of great talents they've got up front. And at the back, you know, we mentioned it last year, the signings of Anderson and Gurhey just was massive for their defence, and it did prove that, and they were really, really hard to beat. And they've got, you know, great fullbacks as well, and Tariq Mitchell. They've got good goalkeepers. You know, their squad is just pretty good on the whole, and I can really see them breaking into top half this year. Taylor, can I ask why you didn't put them in the top half? Any reason?
Purely because I think the teams that I put above them are literally better. I don't think it's any discredit to Palace.
Yeah,
I just think their squad is as good as quality players there. I still think the teams above them are slightly better, give or take Brighton. But then I have them one place. You'll find out I've got them one place apart.
I'll come to them then. Obviously, big rivals, the bragging rights they want finishing above each other. So I've got Palace above Brighton. You've got them below. So just a quick word on Brighton. I think, Matt, did you have Brighton in the top half as well?
Yeah, 10th for me.
Yeah. All right. So just a quick word on Brighton, and then we can talk about Leicester as well, who we had.
Brighton, I just think they genuinely do have one of the best managers in the league, and I think that does show when you watch their football. Again, not a team that's gone crazy in the transfer window, but you see they've made they're more teams to make like a shrewd signing, like McAllister, what's his name, Caicedo. Yeah, they have lost Basuma, but I to be honest, I don't really think that's a massive issue. Fantastic player, and I think he'll do very well at Tottenham, but I don't know. In the small sample size that I've seen Caicedo, absolutely sensational. He obviously stood out against Manchester United. I think they've got one of the best defences in the league. Webster, I think he's very, very, very underrated. Same goes for Dunk maybe a few years ago, and Veltman. You know, still got Tariq Lamptey there. Like
Levi Cole will join
Levi Cole will. Like their squad, they're very hard to score against last year. Like very, very hard team to score against. I think we scored against them once last season. Like, I don't know. And I think they've got one of the best managers in the league who plays a decent brand of football. I think I've seen links away with Neil Maupay. As long as they can keep him and keep players like Danny Welbeck fit. And
they got Dennis Undav as well.
Dennis Undav as well, yeah.
It could. Obviously, very new to the league, so you can't rely on him too much, but that could be one.
Yeah, I think Trossard's a quality player on his day. Yeah. And I think they've just got enough to push on this year and, you know, take a step into the top 10. And I think it's about time, and I think that's what Potter deserves.
Did they not? They weren't top 10, they're just outside, weren't they, last year?
Just outside,
yeah.
I think we need a bit of appreciation for, obviously we were talking about it a bit earlier about Cucurella, but the fact they flipped him, they bought him for 17 million. Obviously not some sort of FIFA trading thing, but like they bought him for 17 million and they're selling him for 55.
So I would imagine there's more signings to come for him as well. But they are very shrewd. You know, they're not going to go and bust a bank on a player. They like to shop abroad and shop cheap, and a lot of the time it does work for them. So
you know what's interesting too? Dan, what's his name? Dan Ashworth, I think it is. He left to go to Newcastle, yet they still have that same sort of strategy about spending little from different leagues, which many clubs don't really shop in, which I think is really interesting.
And just on the topic of that quickly, like if you look at their squad now, again, some players may stand out more than others, but I believe Adam Webster was bought from the Championship from Bristol City. Robert Sanchez was free. Joel Veltman was an absolute bargain. Neil Maupay was bought from the Championship. Trossard was bought from Belgium. I know he's Belgium, but bought from Belgium, I believe. McAllister was bought from the Argentinian league. Caicedo
was very, very low key when they more money.
Even players, I appreciate he's not as as good as he was now, but even Lallana was like a good mental player for the team. He was bought on a free.
I saw a thread earlier about Cucurella saying that he was like struggling at Getafe, and now they've turned him into this player who can play as a left centre back, who can be a wing back at a really high level, and obviously, as I said about the money part, but I just saw a thread earlier on that. I think Toppins talk, so fair play to them, but yeah.
I think that just speaks volumes of how good they are coaching-wise as well, and how good they are at developing players. So that's just a big compliment to them, to be honest. And 55 rising to 62 million is a very good fee for him, and I'm sure they'll go out there and find a new gem to come in and replace him. Just want a quick word on Leicester. We did speak about them last episode, so don't want to go on about it too much. They're not looking great. I don't think they're bad enough at the minute to drop as low as maybe we were at a little bit last week. But thinking about it, looking at the other teams in the league, I think 10th is probably just about realistic for me. They've still got a lot of great players there, but again, if they get the same injuries as they did last season, they could fall down the pecking order. I mean, Schmeichel has gone now. We said he might go last week. He now has gone. Fafana still might be going. Tielemans still might be going. Maddison still might be going. So again, ask me when all that's done.
What's going on? What's going on?
It is mental, but they've got a lot of work to do in the last 3 weeks of the window. But ask me again in 3 weeks. But right now, I think keep all those players and they'll be all right. 10th place. But yeah, we spoke about them a lot already, so I won't go on too much. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Matt. I know you don't rate them at all, really. But
no, not at all. I mean,
you didn't have one, did you?
No chance.
No, we'll see where you put
to be fair, when I say no chance, even with my positioning, I'm going off the fact that they finished at 8th last season, but they were absolutely awful for a large part of the season.
Yeah,
they literally just won 3 games at the end of the season and went from like 12th to 8th. That's like massive in paper and the price.
Literally, what we've got to remember about us doing these table predictions is from about 10th to 15th. It's so hard to say because the team's actual performance is not 8th, and they're performing at like a 12th or a 13th, but then they finish 8th. So end of the season's just not real. Like you can't, it's impossible to say.
Once teams are safe and on the beach, like they can just fluctuate all around the table, and like it can, like the fact that like Leicester were above Brighton last season is just like mad. Brighton with a far better team, but yeah, we'll see where you've put them now as we're going to talk about 11th to 14th. And I'd say this group of teams is just ones that just mid-table. They're no worries about going down, not really likely to break into Europe in my eyes. But yeah, 14th upwards, I'll go first again. So 14th, I've got Brentford. Again, we'll talk about these in a bit more detail in a minute. 13th, Wolves. 12th, Brighton. 11th, Aston Villa. Tay, I'll come to you next.
Mate, we are very similar. I've got Brentford 14th, Wolverhampton 13th, Villa 12th, and Palace 11th. So right, we're out by a single club there.
This is where the difference comes. I've got Leeds 14th, actually, which might be a surprise. I'll explain that later. Brentford 13th, Leicester 12th, and Villa 11th.
All right. Did you put Villa in there somewhere, Tay?
Yeah, Villa at 12th, yeah.
All right, we'll speak about them first then. What really is there to say? I mean, I've seen a few predictions putting them near European spots. I really can't see that. I'm still unconvinced by Steven Gerrard. We spoke about their signings already. I think Kamara's a good buy. Carlos, if you listen to this pod, you'll know I'm not a massive fan of. Don't think he's going to really improve their defence. Coutinho on a permanence, for 17 million. As much as I think he's very inconsistent and slightly overrated these days, that is still a good signing for 17 million. Augustinson, the left back, I assume is a backup, not much to say. Olsen, backup, not much to say. Last season, again, I think they were around 11th, but I don't know. I'm just not massively convinced. I think they need more to really make this push to the European spots that they want to do, but not much to say on my part. 11th, just outside the top half. A slightly overrated team for me. I think if Gerrard wasn't there as a different manager, you wouldn't be saying this, and I don't think Gerrard has proven himself to the point where his team should be considered as highly as it is. But yeah, 11th for me. I have not got much to say. I don't know if you've got anything to add on there.
No, I just don't even think. When I look at their squad, I don't think anyone could tell you their best 11. Like Watkins is a great player on his day, and he's not. I thought Ings was a shrewd signing, and
hasn't really worked.
No, hasn't really worked out. And you've got players in there like Leon Bailey who they spent all this money on a wide player, and Gerrard comes in and he's playing a narrow formation. I'm not saying Bailey is their best player by any stretch of the imagination because I don't even know. I don't think anyone knows who their best player is. And that's quite concerning. There's not much to say. I think they almost fall into the Leicester category. Like, just don't really.
I think they're still slowly building, I guess, because we do forget it is only 2 years ago that they were staying up on the final.
True. I think it's just the financial capability they have and the project that was put in place is. I don't know if it's taken a standstill or a hold.
I think part of it is just maybe their fans and other fans as well, just overhyping them a lot and just
and I think they're trying to rush it as well.
Give it 3 or 4 years, and I could see them being 7th, 8th. But just right now, they're just not quite there. And like, other than Carlos, who in my opinion isn't a great signing, but he could still do well. You look at their other signings over the last couple of years, you can't really say that many of them were unsuccessful or silly buys. So they're building. They're not going to worry about going down. Can't see them troubling the European places this year. I don't want to go too harsh on them because, I don't think they should be doing any better than they are. Like I said, I think it might just be unrealistic expectations put on them. So, yeah, we all agree Villa in sort of 11th to 14th category. No worries about going down. No worries about reaching Europe. The other team, did you have Wolves in there, Matt, as well?
No.
No, you haven't. Okay.
I had Wolves.
Brentford. We all have Brentford, right? No.
Yeah, I had Brentford 14th
yeah.
and Wolves
Yeah.
13th.
All right, we'll talk about Brentford then. A team that we again spoke about briefly last week, that if you'd have asked me at the back end of last season which teams I thought would have struggled this season, I would have definitely said Brentford. But their transfer business has swayed me to. I can't say they won't worry about relegation at all, but I don't think they're be in the bottom three at any point once the table starts to level out. I think they'll keep that 5 or 6 point gap, and then they'll be safe in around April. I think their signings are brilliant. Like I said, I've already said, Strakosha, backup goalkeeper, ideal. Ben Mee, brilliant Premier League centre back on a free transfer. That's a game changer for me. I don't want to sound like proper Premier League experience,
heritage,
cliche, yeah, but that is big for them, I think, because
100%.
A lot of their players are still very inexperienced at this level, and to bring somebody in like him who's been there for years, doing it in a team that's been struggling and probably struggling more than Brentford will do this year, to bring somebody like that in, I think is massive. Since we've recorded as well, they've also signed Damsgaard from Sampdoria. I think it's a very interesting signing. Pardon?
Aaron Hickey as well.
Hickey, fantastic. Lewis Potter,
yeah.
But on Damsgaard, I think it's a slight risk. The fee's not a lot, but he did miss a lot of last season through injury, and he's not really proven at all. But a player that's, I'd say, still very raw, and he's still got a lot to learn. But he's shown glimpses of being fantastic. So, and to go with a coach like Thomas Frank, who, as much as I really dislike the bloke, is a fantastic coach and he's one of their biggest assets. So, I think Damsgaard under him could be a very interesting prospect. And yeah, I rate their transfer business highly. I do rate Thomas Frank highly, and I think they'll be more than all right this season. So I guess you guys agree if you put them in the same sort of category.
Yeah, I think with Brentford, I mean, they kind of go in the category of teams who just won't go down, but won't, unless they maybe get top half, that's about it. But I think, people talk about second season syndrome, but I don't see a reason why it would really affect them. I think Damsgaard is the creative profile they'll try to replace for Ericsson. And some of their other signings are really intriguing as well, because as you know, in the Premier League or in football in general, when you're at the top, you've still got to make signings. You can't just, not at the top per se, but you have a brilliant first season, as good as it's going to get for a team like Brentford. You can't just sit there and.
Well, if they did, I think they would have been in trouble. But I think the signings they made have been brilliant, and their recruitment and business model was fantastic, and that's why they're in the position they're in. So again, incredibly well-run club, and fair play to them because they're smashing it at the minute. And I expect them to be a long stay in the Premier League for as long as Thomas Frank's there, and for as long as they keep making great signings. So very, very impressive from them. Who was in yours today? You had Wolves. I have Wolves. Got them a little bit lower.
Yeah, Wolves 13th. I had Palace 11th. Obviously, we've already touched on Palace. I don't think there's much in it, but yeah, Wolves another one for me.
Well,
good squad, not deep enough.
I'll just say on Brighton quickly, because you both had them top 10. I've got them 12th. Again, nothing. I think they're a great team. I think Potter's a great manager. That's just purely based on the lack of signings so far. Add a few names in. I think they're definitely going to be in contention with top 10. Nothing to worry about. Again, same as Brentford. I think they're going to be a long stay in the Premier League. I think even if Potter was to go, I do trust them to bring the right manager in to sort of continue on his project, because I think he will go eventually. I think he's too good to stay at Brighton for his whole career, as much as managers don't do that these days. But I do trust them to bring in a good replacement. He wishes to go, and I think they're very, very well run, so they will be in the Premier League for a long time. That's for me. We'll talk about Wolves, and we'll talk about Leeds, who you might add in 14th. So Wolves, again, we spoke about them before. Lack of transfer business still. They've in talks to land Michy Batshuayi on loan, I've seen today. I don't mind that signing necessarily. I don't think he's going to pull up any serious trees, but with the Jimenez news of him being out for 8 weeks, I think they could do worse than bringing him in on a loan deal. I think he'd do all right. But other than that, just Nathan Collins so far. A big story today, which I don't know if you guys saw. It looks like Connor Cody might be on his way out, which is just massive to even. Don't know if you even saw that. They come from Alex Crook, TalkSport, fairly reliable. Everton interested, supposedly, which we'll talk about in a bit. But Cody leaving Wolves is pretty mental to think about, considering the current Wolves crop. Obviously, they've been in the Premier League before, but the current Wolves, Connor Cody is massively associated with that. But if they are moving to a back four, that's probably not an outrageous decision, just an interesting one to think about. But I do expect more signings from Wolves, but I don't see them doing enough business to get them back to the 7th, 8th that they were hitting a couple of years ago. But yeah, last season without Jose Sarr, they would have been very, very much down the table. So it's slightly concerning signs for Wolves fans, but I think even still their starting 11 is still very, very solid. And with a few additions, I think they'll be more than fine. Obviously, they will make a few additions, just hasn't happened yet. But again, another team, which is why they're in this bracket. No worries for relegation for me, but no, they're not going to put up any trees this season for sure. I think the lack of business and squad depth is going to cost them. So guess you agree with most of that, Tay. Don't know if you've got anything to add.
No, nothing. I'll bang on.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's obviously got a slightly different opinion. I'm not sure where he's placed them, but we'll get onto that in a bit. A team that me and Tay have obviously put lower and Matt's put higher, Leeds. So before me and Tay speak about them a little bit, Matt, I just want to hear your input. Leeds 14th, obviously Jesse Marsh, a lot of new signings.
I think when you talk about a club selling their best players, you associate a club with not struggling per se, but they're in a bit of a predicament. How are they going to do without their best players? And I get that because obviously Rafinha is a fantastic player and Calvin Phillips is a big miss for them as well. But I think Sinisterra is a really nice pickup. Aronson, I think Adams is a lovely pickup. I think they've just made some really good business and they've made very good use of the money they have. And I think last season they struggled big time because of injuries and the lack of squad depth. And I think they've addressed that a lot more this season. And I think this type of the table, this area of the table is so hard to say because a team you put 16th could come 13th, a team you put 14th could come 12th, etc., etc. But I think roughly, I don't think they'll be in a relegation battle. I think Marsh is a really interesting, very intriguing coach. So he's one where, it could go a bit poorly. And if it does, then, maybe this whole perception is completely wrong. But I think he's a very intriguing coach, similar-ish to Bielsa, but also a few different things which are intriguing too. So I like the look of what I see from him. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see Woodley's in this season. I think they will have a pretty decent season.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'll touch on them in a minute. So you don't think they're going to flirt at relegation at all then? No,
I think
fair
so.
enough. Talking of relegation, these are the 6 teams that I guess in these positions we do think are going to be flirting with relegation. So I'll start again. I'm going to go from 15th down this time, just for the added suspense. 15th, I've got Southampton. 16th, Everton. 17th, Nottingham Forest. 18th, Leeds. 19th, Bournemouth. No, 19th, Fulham. 20th, Bournemouth. Tay, I'll come to you, and then we can discuss.
Right, so I've got a list here, but again, I'm going to change it based on the most recent weeks. 15th, I've also got Southampton. And my bottom 2, I'm pretty set in stone. Again, it could be wrong, obviously. But I feel like it's like a top 4 situation with who I've got to go down. On this original list, I've got Bournemouth in 16th, Everton 17th, and Leeds to go down in 18th. But I do think it could go any other way now. And if I were to rearrange it, I'd have Bournemouth going down. Leeds going down, Bournemouth staying up just, and Everton finishing just below Southampton. Forest 19th and Fulham 20th because they have the worst manager in the league. So,
well, there's a lot to discuss out of that. Matt, I'll come to you and then we can get into it.
I'll be honest, I have one team in this area, and after just thinking about some of their signings, I kind of want to put them a bit higher now. But I actually have Forest 15th, Southampton 16th, Wolves 17th, which I think probably a bit harsh. Particularly when I was talking about, end of the season, how teams can so easily just pick up wins and their positions misleading. Fulham 18th, Everton 19th. I kind of want to move them up now that I'm thinking about. They're getting, I think, Idrissa Gana Gueye. They're getting Onana, supposedly. And if they do get a 9, obviously Calvert-Lewin injury is not ideal at all. But if they did get someone like a Broha, I think that would be very intriguing because you'd be giving Lampard 4 more players which are more suited. And they signed, I think, James Tarkowski, which is a nice pickup on a free. And Bournemouth 20th, I think. They're just a dead set.
Well, that's the first thing I want to talk on.
And bottom.
Tay has put Bournemouth in 16th. I'd love to know why you think Bournemouth is going to stay up.
I'm going to be honest with you. This screenshot is about a week old. I have no idea. Their scores isn't great. Their manager also isn't great. Him and Marco Silva, you asked me, 2 of the worst coaches in the league. Tim Pot Stadium, the fans aren't great. I don't know what they're doing here. No, do you know what? I don't like Leeds' business. I like Jesse March, and I hope it goes well, but it's just a project that for some reason I can just see collapsing. So I think they might go down, but I'm going to change my answer. I do think Bournemouth will go down. I think Leeds and Everton will both stay up. Not that I had Everton 17th anyway. I'd move them both up, but I don't like saying all 3 of the promoted teams will go down. I don't. But I think if any of them do, if any of them stay up, it will be Forest. But no, I'm gonna change my answer. Bournemouth. Look, they've signed no one.
They've signed Joe Rothwell, they've signed Marcus Tavernier, and they've signed Ryan Fredericks.
Yeah, they're going. They're
it's not there to make up the numbers.
It's not enough for a team that, you know, hobbled over the line last season when they had such a big lead. You know, I don't want to be too negative because obviously their fans are going to be really excited for this season, but I just don't think they've done enough. And it looks like they're going down the Norwich model of just taking the parachute payment and going again. But Bournemouth, I think we can agree, and I don't want to be too negative. I do apologise to any Bournemouth fans, but
I don't.
Fair enough. I don't see it going any other way at the minute. Another team we all agreed on was Fulham. Again, I don't think their business is too bad. I think they've brought 5 in so far. Bernd Leno, whatever you think of him, he's a decent goalkeeper. He does improve them in that area. Kevin and Barbu, FIFA merchant. People say he's good. He's good because he's quick on FIFA. He is a decent player, but he's not, you know, game changer. Andreas Pereira is another one who, again, could work, might not. It wasn't good enough for United. Doesn't mean he won't be good enough elsewhere. Mata Solomon's probably my favourite sign out of all of them, to be fair. I think he's really, really promising. A deal which took so long to get over the line, but it has now, and I think he will add a lot into that attack. I am forgetting the other signing now. There is
Paulinho.
one. That's it. No, yeah, that's the best one. Sorry, I'm in your second, mate. Please.
The thing is, again, there's a lot. At the time I'm recording, there's a lot of time left in the window, but they need a centre back, at least one.
Tim Ream starting in the Premier League is quite funny, to be honest.
That's food. That's food for Nunes.
Yeah,
that's food for Mo Salah and Darwin Nunes first.
Salah's dunking at least 2 or 3 on Tim Ream. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim.
I don't dislike Silva as much as you do, to be honest. I think he was overrated in his first stint in England, but I don't think he's that bad. Not bad. It's Mark Silva.
He's been sacked at every job he's had. He plays a nice brand of football, but I don't know.
But he's better than what they've had before in the last 2 times. They've gone down.
Yeah, I mean, he's gotten promoted. I think fair enough. But the manager they sacked him for also got promoted. Like, I don't know. That squad was never not going to get promoted, if you ask me.
I don't think they're going to stay up, but I think they're in better stead this year to give a good crack at it as they were last time. That's what I'd say.
Why are you going to put Bournemouth in? I don't know what I was drinking that night. Bournemouth 16th.
I heard that. I was like, what's going on here?
That must have been some sort of error. Bournemouth are coming dead last. Scott Parker's gone by October.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get onto that in a minute. But they did prove a lot of people wrong last time, so I'll never write a team off, you know, with a game not even being kicked. But so those 2 we all agree on. I had Leeds. Matt had Everton, but he's slightly regretting it. Tay had Forest. I'll touch on Leeds, obviously, because we already have. I think their business, I've tweeted plenty of times, I think their business is really, really exciting. I think all the signings that Matt named are very, very exciting. But it's just whether they click or not. I think they're one Bamford. I think if Bamford was to get injured for a similar time that he was last season, I don't see how they stay up, to be quite honest. I think, obviously, they have attempted to replace Phillips and Rafinha. On paper, looks good, but whether it actually will turn out to be good, I'm not sure. I think Aronson's a really exciting player. I think Sinisterra is a really exciting player. He's out at the minute for, I think, 6 to 8 weeks, which is a massive disappointment for them. They've still got a lot of good players in there, but I think with the teams down there, it is always quite a strong league at the start. And obviously, I'll touch on why I think other teams are going to stay up in a minute. But I think they will just drop. And I think Jesse Marsh could lose his job, which would be a shame because I do rate him a lot. But if it was to start to go pear-shaped, I think he could be one to lose his job this season. But if all the signings click and produce the form they did at their previous clubs, they will not go down. But it's whether they do or not. And again, I'm more convinced with the other 2. This is just one that I had to pick a team, and out of all of them, I think these would be the ones in most danger. But obviously, we have touched on Leeds a little bit. Tay, you had them just above the trapdoor. What is it that's making you think they're going to finish above Forest? We'll talk about in a minute.
Just the Premier League experience of their players. Like, you say we like. They were in a relegation battle last year. They've still got players in the squad. Stuart Dallas, Liam Cooper, like I say, Patrick Bamford if he's fit. Mateus Click. I just think, profile wise, I think they're more suited to being in that sort of situation. I think they're 2 great coaches. Personally, I like them both, but I love Cooper, and the business they've done is the business they've both done. You know, talking between Forest and Leeds have both been good. I just don't trust, if I'm being totally honest, It's so hard. This
Just one thing, sorry, before we go to Forest. I think Marsh staying up in a relegation battle last season, that experience is big, I think. Because like they did really look doomed towards the end and he managed to pull them out of it. I think if it was to come to that again, I think having somebody who's already experienced a relegation battle before could be good for them. But yeah, we'll get on to Forest now.
I don't know. It's so hard. It's so hard to pick, but I just think, like you said, the experience of these players and for it to happen last year, I don't know. To be completely honest, I like Marsh, but I don't have any idea why I have this thing about him where I just can't see him hitting the ground running like people are saying. Like all these signings, I don't trust them, to be completely honest. And like I say, I'm not trying to go down the same route of he's not Premier League proven and all this, because I don't necessarily believe in that. But I think Leeds will really struggle this year, and I think if they stay up, I wouldn't go as far to say it's a miracle, but I think they would outdo themselves if they stayed up, given they have no injury problems.
They signed a 9.
No.
I think if they sign a striker, that'll definitely, like a decent striker, that'll definitely solidify.
Well, they've got Joe Gelhardt. I think they've got quite high hopes for him. I mean, if they were to sign a striker, then he'd be pushed quite down the pecking order. I think he's a player they just give him a new contract to as well. So that's probably
he almost kept them up last year, basically, as well.
That goal against Norwich.
Yeah,
he got some assists as well. Like goal and assist back-to-back games.
Yeah, he's a promising player, to be fair. But yeah, again, 3 conflicting opinions on Leeds. One thinks they're going to go down. One thinks they'll just stay up. One thinks they won't have any issues. So I'm glad we're not all saying the same thing. But
probably finish above United, man.
Yeah, probably. Another club that there are split opinions of is Forest. Hayes got them to go down. I've got them to just stay up. Matt's got them a bit higher up the league. I'll give put my 50p in first. I think they've done some great brought in some great players. We spoke last week. I think they've kept the core of their team, especially in defence, which is key, rather than just ripping up the old team. I think they're still going to pretty much have the same defence, other than the new centre back. Forgot his name from the Bundesliga. They've still got Ryan Yates. They might be getting James Garner back, so that's still the same issue. Yeah, that's it. And then they've still got the same Brennan Johnson, who was so good last season up front, obviously with his new strike partner, Awani. I think the standout signings, like we've said, I'm not going to ramble on because we already have, but Nico Williams, Dean Henderson, Nia Carte, they've got Awani, brilliant signings. Omar Richards as well at left back. We spoke about this last week. But I think people are overrating them slightly. I've seen people put them in like 12th. I just don't see what basis that is. I think they're still favourites to go down with the bookies, and I think that's probably right. They're still very inexperienced in this league. They've got an inexperienced manager. I'm saying this, and I've predicted them to stay up, and I believe they will stay up, but they'll be in a battle all the way through it, and they'll just pull through above Leeds for me. But yeah, I think they've done some good business, but we said that about Fulham before. We said that about lots of teams that have ended up going down, but I think they've got a good enough squad to do it, and I think they just will. But I think anything higher than Matt's 15th is a bit outrageous. So Tay, I'll come to you first, Tay. You reckon they're just going to drop?
Yeah, I just don't think, with all due respect, I like a lot of their signings. It looks like they're not spending money. I just don't think there's enough goals in the team. I think Brennan Johnson's a quality player. I'm not sure how Wyman he's going to do in this league. I really rate the manager. I like the system, like the players. I just don't think there's enough goals to stay up. That's literally it.
Do you not think that Awani is going to hit the ground running?
I think he might score 5, 6.
5.
Yeah.
If he can get 10.
If he can get 10, then Brennan Johnson can get like 10 and 5. They might stay up, but I don't know.
Lingard as well, who we forgot about. That's a big one. We spoke about last week, but I think he'll add a lot in that attack. I think that front three is quite exciting if they can all link and do well. But Matt, you had him a bit further out of trouble.
Yeah, I think one thing with them is they seem incredibly ambitious. I mean, I know they have very rich owners, but they're very much flexing that. Obviously, going through the playoffs as well, the money you get for that is crazy too. And I think it's easy to say, like the Fulham, they spent 100 million, something crazy, and went down. But I think it will be different for Forest. I think one thing with them is their away ground will be a nightmare for a lot of sides. I think that'll be a big plus for them. And I feel like not they'll have the same sort of season, but I feel like they'll be slightly similar to Sheffield United's first season in the Premier League. For one, Dean Henderson, but I like Dean Henderson as a signing. I think that's a really good one. I think Lingard is the main one for me. I think in transition, him and Johnson, I think Johnson will light up the league. And I think Lingard he'll be brilliant in transition, and that's where Forest will thrive, I feel. I really like Cooper as a manager. I think the first time him being in the Premier League is long overdue, and I think he'll do really well in it. And they're very much just spending a lot. I think my opinion on Leeds, my opinion on Southampton when we get to them, and my opinion on Forest, there's quite a few teams this year which are either spending a lot or have this sort of project about them. And let's be honest, it's very unlikely all three are very successful with their project. It's just very unlikely. So
Forest had to buy. That's like they lost a lot of players on I think they had 5 or 6 loans that went back who were key members of the squad. They lost a couple of players as well on frees, and a couple of players have been sold. So they had to spend, and I think they have spent well. There is really a thought process behind these signings. I can see why they've bought in each one of them. So, yeah, I think people saying they're doing a Fulham in quotation marks is quite lazy. I think they've recruited very well, but that's not. You can't just do that. There's still a big job on their hands. I think they just do it, but we'll see. Definitely an interesting addition. But we all had. Well, Matt had Everton in the bottom 3. I think he's regretting that a little bit. I'll come to you first then, Matt. Are you sticking with that, or do you think they're going to get out of it?
It's very tough, right? Because I'm not judging off preseason per se either, but I feel like, I don't know if I said this on the pod a few weeks ago or not, but I think Lampard did take the wrong job with this Everton job. I think he's far more of a progressive type manager for either a club which will fully back him, or like you need smart decisions more than anything in the market, which I don't think he's had so far, and I don't think they've signed much either. Obviously, he got left with a really tough squad. Very few signings the season before. Obviously, Benitez wasn't particularly popular, and then the job he had to come in and do. It's a big deal that he managed to keep them up in the end the way they did. But I think if they take that same Route 1 style of, trying to get aggressive on the opponent and just win by like dark arts, I guess, I don't see that being a sustainable method. I'm, not just saying that because it's Everton or anything like that, but if they take that same Route 1 style of football, like rely on fans, etc., I don't see that going very well for them. But where my opinion's deciding to slightly change is one of the biggest problems with Everton is they don't have a 6 and their midfield's a bit of a shambles. But if they get in Guy, who was obviously a fan favourite when he was at Everton before he left PSG, or Onana, I think his name is, incredibly highly rated, the physical presence in there, I think those sort of signings will be the difference between them coming 18th and maybe like 15th. Same with getting a 9 in as well, because I think Calvert-Lewin getting injured. I like the addition of McNeil as well. I think it's easy just to look at and be, he scored 1 goal, this, that. But I really like that signing. I think him and Gordon on either side is really, really strong. And as I say, my biggest problem just came from the midfield. So if they do address that, then potentially, Premier League survival is very much big possibility, and even finishing slightly higher up the table, as I spoke about, the end of the season's impact too. So they're a very hard one to predict because this league is very strong and there are a lot of teams which have a lot of quality. So it's not like they're the only side with a quality front 3, etc. But I put them 18th, or I put them 19th, sorry, definitely 18th at least. I think, as I said, one of Leeds, Southampton, or Forest potentially, the project wise, may not go so swimmingly, but I'll just stick with 18th for now. But the window just will change a lot for sure.
Yeah, for me, I think these couple of signings now are the difference between going down and staying up. I don't think they're definitely going to be the relegation battle for me. They were just so poor last season and they've lost their best player, and they have bought a couple of good players, but I'm still unsure about Lampard again. I don't really think he knows what direction he wants his team to go in. I think anybody putting him above 14th is just putting him above 14th because they're Everton. You've got to look at what you saw last season. The signings are decent. I like Tarkowski, I like McNeil, I like Gay, and I like Onana. I think they're all great signings. They have one more as well. Vinagre backup left back. But I think they've made some decent signings. But again, how many times have we said Everton have had a good window? It doesn't always work out like that. I think they will be fine, but a relegation battle again, and so much more needs to be done. And I don't know what they're going to do because, I mean, if they do spend 33 million on Onana, that's obviously quite a bit of money. But with the new stadium, they haven't got endless money to invest, so they're going to have to find a way around it. And I think it's going to be a while before they're back up there near the top half. Tay, obviously, you had them just outside the bottom 3 as well. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I don't think Lampard will be there by the end of next season. So I don't know. I just don't think they're good enough. Like I sort of agree with you. I think it's a name thing. anyone who has them higher than, like you say, 14th, 13th absolute maximum for me is doing it because they're Everton. And this isn't a bias thing. I don't really care. I just don't think they're good enough. Don't think the manager's good enough for the project that they're in the current squad. They've just lost their best player. Like you said, they don't have unlimited financial backing, which they sort of not need right now, but they could really do with a few more players. And I think the players they brought in, they haven't been smart signings, and I'd like to be proved wrong, but it's been ridiculous amounts of Iwobi in the past, Dwight McNeil. Like now Richarlison's gone. I don't know who's going to score the goals for him. Calvert-Lewin can't seem to stay fit whatsoever. Like I don't see where.
Right, if you take Calvert-Lewin out, I don't think they have a player that's going to score more than 5. I generally
I completely agree with you. I don't know how this team stays up if it isn't on keeping clean sheets and, like Matt says, dark arts. I don't see how this team stays up.
I think it's very, very 9 dependent as well. Because obviously they've lost Richarlison, but as you were talking about Calvert-Lewin fitness, I think if they didn't sign a 9, you'd be looking at them more or less shoo-in for relegation, even with their midfield additions. Because although they're quality, not having that 9 is so important. But we've got a month left of the window. They're not stupid. They know they need a number 9, and I'm sure they'll adjust that. So probably a different conversation when they do.
I mean, we've got one more team to talk about. I haven't got too much time, so I want to talk about our other little topics as well. But Southampton's the last team. I've predicted them to go down before. I'm not going to do it this year. I think they will have a bit to worry about. I think they'll be in the relegation battle, but by March, April time, I think they'll just slightly pull away. But yeah, they're a weird team because at one point they were knocking on the door of the top 10, and now they're sort of lurking around 14th to 16th every year, with a lot of people not sure about Haas and Hootel. So it's all a bit up in the air, but I think they've got enough quality in that squad to be all right.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think the signings have been made to stay out right now, as quality as they are. I just think they're building for the future. But yeah, I still think they've got a lot more than the teams we've mentioned below us. I don't think there's too much to say on them. They're a weird team.
They'll take their annual 9-0 and then pull a few wins in a row, and then they'll be all right.
I think they need to. I really like the youth project they've adapted, and they've made some really intriguing signings. And I don't think signing players who are incredibly good from the City Academy is a bad idea either. Like Bazuna, I think is a great pickup from what I've heard from Portsmouth fans and stuff. And I think Lavia's immensely talented too. I think they signed 1 or 2 others from City or other youth players. I think Kaleta, I can't remember his name, Bellacoch.
Yeah,
very good player as well. So have to see with that. If they keep Walker Peters, they probably will now that Chelsea have gone for Cucurella and spent big on him and have other issues to address. So probably won't. But I think the one thing they probably do need to do is add like the odd 25-year-old or so to this.
Just a bit more
project.
Experience.
Just a bit more. Yeah, that 9 as well. I really like Shea Adams, but they do need to replace Armand Broja, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. But I think they'll be all right. I think we all agree on that. But yeah, that is our 1 to 20. So let us know what you think. And just to wrap up in the last 10 minutes or so, we're just going to talk about a couple of different topics. We haven't got too much time to discuss them, so we'll just get answers from everybody. Top goal scorer, first of all, and just a couple of names that may surprise you and be up there. I think we might all agree on the top scorer, to be honest. I'm definitely going Salah for me. I don't think it's in doubt. I'd be very surprised if it's not him.
I think it'll be Salah, especially with the break coming up with the World Cup.
Matt?
I think it'll be Salah by a distance.
Yeah. I think I could see Salah scoring 25 or 26. And obviously, the main name that everyone will be screaming at their screens is Haaland, and I think he'll do well. I think he'll crack 20, but we spoke about it a lot of times before. There's no way he's going to score like 30. City are just such a good team in general, and all their goals are spread out a lot. They've never been the sort of team, even when Aguero was there, he didn't outscore the rest of the team by miles, did he?
No.
I think Haaland 21, 22, maybe.
When they won the league 2 years ago, admittedly they didn't have an out-and-out number 9, but Gundogan was the top scorer in the league.
Yeah. And
it never turns out how you think either. Just doesn't.
Yeah, so I think he'll do well, and he's not going to flop, but I think City are so good anyway that he's not going to raise their levels massively. I think he might help them in the cup competitions more than anything. But yeah, Haaland will obviously be up there, but that's expected. Couple of names, dark horses maybe. I've got one. Don't know if anybody else got any.
Kind of got one, but it depends on how much he starts. But I really like the look of like. To be fair, I was quite conflicted when he was linked with Arsenal, funny enough. But to be honest, I didn't know much about the player. But Nunes, I just feel like he's going to be a real hit in the league. I feel like when Liverpool spend the amount of money they do on a player like that, they know what they're doing. Obviously, it's cliche to say, say whatever about their recruitment, but it's always top quality. There's not a miss, I don't think, really. And I just can see him being like a Jota, but a Jota 2.0 with more as well. So getting more goals and more everything. I just see him being an absolute handful. His runs, like his movement and everything, even against City, just gave me that small indication. When you watch just a small period of time from a player, even if it's not very long, I feel like you just get a really good indication of how good they're going to be. And I think he will be the consistent starter. I'm not sure whether he'll start instantly against Fulham, potentially, but I think even if he doesn't start instantly, he will follow, into the team pretty quickly.
Yeah. Anything from Mute on a dark horse?
To be honest, no.
No.
I think it'll be the same usual names, with Haaland and Nunes as well.
I've got one. I don't think he'll crack out the top 5, but I think if Ronaldo was to go, I think Fernandes will score a lot more goals this season. I think if he was to get penalties back, in a poor season last year, he hit 10. So if he gets his penalties back, I could see him hitting 15 to 18 again, which won't put him in the race necessarily, but I think he'll be up there. I think he'll just do a bit better this season, especially if he gets penalties back as well. And I think he is better without Ronaldo in the team, but we don't know what's going to happen with that. Yeah, anyway. As for top assist maker, probably all going to agree again. It'd be hard to look past Kevin De Bruyne in this Man City team right now.
I haven't actually gone for De Bruyne. I've gone for Trent.
Fairs. Tay?
I mean, I don't really have like a dead set answer. I would say De Bruyne. I think he's the best playmaker in the league, but Salah won it last year. He's also got a break, so he's not going to get burnt out this year. So I think it's between those two. Like I say, she dark horses in there. I think Trent. I say you can't really call Trent a dark horse, but I think he's going to be right up there.
As amazing as Trent is, if he was to hit 15 or more, that's just ridiculous. Like for as good as he is already,
definitely, to be honest.
15 assists for a fullback.
Didn't he not just come off 12?
12, yeah. 12. But I get it. I think Trent will definitely be top 5. Whether he's top or not, I'm not sure. I think De Bruyne will benefit from having a proper striker. I know it's been said to death, but I think De Bruyne having another proper striker in there will help his numbers a lot more. Obviously, he got more goals last season, which was weird, but
I think Saka could hit 10 this year.
I was about to say, I think Saka will. I don't think he'll be right up there, but I think he'll be creeping in and around.
He could hit double digits for first this season.
I could get even more than that, to be fair. But
my dark horse was Sancho. I think Sancho could hit double figures for assists this season.
Yeah, I think Sancho's gonna have a good year this season.
I could see like 7 goals and 10 assists from him, something like that, which would obviously be an improvement. Still a very young player with bags of potential, so I started seeing this season. Next category, I've got biggest underperformer, not a new signing, but already in the league. I'm going to say Havertz for this one. I just don't trust him as Chelsea's number 9, essentially. And I can't really say he's an underperformer because he hasn't really performed since he joined the league. But I think a better player in that position would improve Chelsea a lot. And he's not terrible. And obviously that Champions League winning goal pretty much repaid the fee itself. But I don't know if I can trust him as the 9 because he hasn't really even got any competition now. I mean, Werner looks like he's going. Unless you're going to play Sterling as that number 9, I don't know. I just don't really trust Havertz. I don't know if you guys have got any other names to throw out there for that.
Sorry to be boring, but I'm with you.
Havertz. Yeah, I can't even call him an underperformer though, because as much as I've tried to, like whatever with him, I just But I've got a shout. I don't know, but like Coutinho. We mentioned it briefly earlier, but I feel like people get carried away by the name. I can't see him doing much other than the odd few games where he's incredibly good. I think he's quite easy to take out the game as well. And no doubt, Villa will be a far better side when he's performing at his best. But I just think people do get carried away with the name and he won't do anything too substantial.
One more briefly, Jack Grealish. He just doesn't move me.
It's so confusing because I feel like it feels like a given that he will have a great season, with City attackers, how they adapt after the first season. And I'm a big fan of his, and I feel like he will have a great season. But then you watch him against even that Liverpool game, just
did look the same player, didn't
central. I don't know if it's Pep getting him to play central, not trying to.
I think he's scared to lose the ball, and I don't like that. That's not the player.
That's not who he is. Yeah. Again, I think it was the wrong. I think he'd do all right this year, but I think it's.
Didn't he say? In an interview, that's literally how it was for like first season. I think once he gets past that mental block, he'll be superb, but it's just hard to say.
We'll see on that one. I've got one more name. This might be a bit harsh, but maybe Jared Bowen. he just massively outperformed his expected goals and assists last season, and I think that will drop off. I don't think his performance levels will necessarily, but I think his goal involvements was what was getting him a lot of the plaudits last season. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit biased because of his England performances, which were very underwhelming, considering people were saying he should be in that team. I don't think
he's Kulusevski as well with that same note. I thought I'd just say as well.
Pardon?
Could say Kulusevski as well with that same sort of logic.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that last week, didn't we? I don't know. I think that's a really harsh one for me up there because I really rate Bowen as a player, and I'm not saying he's going to do badly. I would just be surprised if he kept up the same levels. But yeah, I have a few names there. Let us know what you think. I'm sure there'll be a couple more. But
to be honest, with Bowen, I feel like he might even get more goals than last season. I just feel like I've been a bit mixed with him as a player, but he's just a ridiculously good finisher. And I think it comes to a point where some players can overperform their XG, like a Son. And I don't think that's the case with Kulusevski, because I genuinely just think, obviously, he was playing alongside Son and Kane, but I just can't see it being the same assist-wise. But I think genuinely with Bowen, he's a really, really good finisher, and that plays into his hands big time.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I was being harsh, but best and worst new signings next. These are I've got 2 for good, 1 for bad.
Is one of them Diego Carlos?
Well, yeah, it is Diego Carlos.
I was gonna, but it sounds like I have a Villa agenda at that point, so I just
that is a good point. I'm sorry to any Villa fans listening. Don't hate you that much, but yeah, I spoke about him before. I just think he's rash. Not great, not massively upgrade on what they've got already in my eyes. And I don't think there's many signings that I haven't liked, so it's probably a bit harsh on him. That's probably one of the only ones I have. 2 signings I do like a lot, which we spoke about a lot, so I won't even elaborate. But Sterling and Jesus, I think, will do really well at their new clubs. When we spoke about a couple of underrated ones last week, which we spoke about again today, like Decore, Collins, etc. But yeah, Sterling, Jesus, the main ones for me. I think they'll do well. Don't know if you guys have got anything different.
Yeah, I wanted to add a few more out there shouts. Of course, like Jesus, I think is big time, but I think Lingard's a massive one for me. I think Bazoon is a really interesting one too for me, particularly just his all-round game compared to Forster beforehand. And my other one is actually Joe Aribo. I don't know too much about the player, but I just think he'll be a really intriguing signing. Like from the small bits I've seen of Rangers last season and a few other clips and stuff, I just see him being a very intriguing player.
There is one I want to say. Not that I don't think it's a bad signing at all, but I am slightly worried about Lisandro Martinez. I can't lie, just because of the fact he's playing with the hair behind him. That's literally because I
forgot that signing even happened.
I think we've been so negative in the last week or so that it's been slipped under the radar. I think he's a fantastic player, but a small centre half who is good in the air, but the Premier League is a different kettle of fish. Combined with a goalkeeper that can't catch a ball and claim crosses. I'm sick of talking about David De Gea, but I don't think Martinez is a bad player at all. I'm just slightly worried about that dynamic, especially if Maguire doesn't pick up his form. But yeah, that's what I'm slightly worried about. But
on that United note, just thought of him now. I think Malaysia will be a really intriguing signing. Like his general profile and the fact that short of his injury record's not amazing. I think that'll be a big thing for United to have someone who they can cover in there, and I think he will adapt really well.
Yeah, I think it's probably. Wow, I like the signing of Eriksen. That's a good one for me if he gets the game time and is used correctly. But Malacia as well, yeah, happy with that. Martinez, I think, is a fantastic player, but whether it works or not, I just think De Gea hinders the centre back so much, and I don't want to go into that because I'm sick of trying to persuade people that that's the case. But
one more,
go on.
Just forgot to say, to be fair, I think Fabio Vieira will be a really intriguing one, but I think Zinchenko. I think where we came unstuck big time last season and have in the past in general is just depth. And when you take out like a Tierney or a few other players, I won't say, our team just goes down a whole level. So having that Tierney replacement, also someone who can play midfield as well to a really high level and is as technically good as he is with availability, etc., is a massive, massive part.
Yeah, agree. Any more to add, Tay, before we move on?
No, I think you boys covered them all really. Like I say, most excited for. I've mentioned it before. Eriksen, given his the right game time. Love Jesus, love Sterling. There's not really many I dislike, to be fair. I think it's been a weird window, but
it's just so hard to say that any player is not going to do well when these clubs spend this money on them.
Yeah. Do you know what? And I hope he does well because he seems like a really nice bloke. But I don't trust Tyler Adams. I'm not going to elaborate. We'll just leave it at that.
Don't trust Tyler Adams.
Yeah. Don't trust a bloke with 2 first names.
Fair point. Nah, nice. We'll move on from that. Got 2 more sort of tied into the same one. First manager sacked and then shock manager sacked. I've got 3 names for first manager sacked. Parker and Silva, just because they're going to be down there, and the clubs that are down there tend to change their manager. I'll be very surprised if they're both in a drop by the end of the season. I think Cooper, Lampard's my other one, yeah. I think Cooper they'll stick with Cooper if it goes bad.
Yeah,
but the other two, I think they're not hesitant to change the manager. And yeah, I could see Parker or Silva going. Lampard again. I could see Everton being 18th, sacking Lampard and just staying up, or they just stay up with Lampard. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know if any more names to throw in.
No, I think Scott Parker's first goal.
What about Hasenhuttl? Is this finally his year?
No.
You don't think?
There's no one better they can.
I agree that he survived 2-9-0s, and I just feel like if they have a bad start to the season, I don't know. It just feels like he's been on the brink of the sack. He's like Ollie, but just on a smaller scale. It got
what I was just thinking with him. I was actually contemplating his name, but when I think about it, they put all this money and youth project into him. I can't imagine they just give that up.
Yeah, no, that's just a fair point. It just feels like he's under pressure all the time.
I want to throw Rodgers' name in the hat, but I feel like that'll be come the turn in the new year, if anything.
I don't think Leicester are smart enough to sack him, I'll be honest. I think that's where they'll really go wrong again.
Well, if we just move on then to shock manager sacks, I've got two. Tuchel's one. I reckon you might agree with that. I think the way it's just the preseason's been pretty rotten. He's a manager that doesn't hold back his feelings, and again, we don't know what Todd Bowley's going to be like in that sense. But I don't think he will be sacked this season. I think he could, and I think he's one of the main reasons I have got Chelsea in the top four still. I think his experience and he can deal with what he's pretty much been given, proven that he took over a team after season and won a Champions League. And my other one's Eddie Howe. Again, I'm not sure if this will happen, but if he starts to underperform, they're not going to hesitate to sack him, I don't think. Especially considering the ambitions that they have. Don't think it'll happen necessarily, but I think it could. But that's why they're shocks, because it's unexpected. But I don't know if there's any more to add.
The only shock, I got a shock one, and I don't think it will happen. But I wouldn't be against anything possible if I saw Conte walk.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You can never write that off, though.
Yeah, no, exactly that.
If you defeat a defeat at Vitality Stadium, he's off.
Yeah.
Any more for you to add, Matt?
This might be a harsh one. It's just kind of a name I kind of thought of, Gerrard. I don't know about. Yeah, definitely not first one, but I just feel like he'll have another inconsistent-esque season, and I think Villa's business has to, also be in line with what the manager's ambitions are, which I think won't do him too many favours, because Villa are a very ambitious club financially. I think they have like 5th richest owner in the league or something along those lines. Yeah. But they haven't really flexed that sort of power in the window. And also Chukwuemeka, I thought I just mentioned now, by the way, just thought of him now. The fact he's gone to Chelsea is a great pickup for them. That's very off topic. But yeah, I don't know. I just think they've been quite inconsistent, or they were very inconsistent last season. I think moving on from Smith was a very good decision. I think it was his time. He just wasn't that guy. And it's a really harsh one, to be fair. And it all just depends where Villa stand in terms of, are we, allowing a bit more inconsistency for long-term reaping the rewards, and next summer back in big time, or they maybe spend a lot more this summer, depending on how they spend it too. So it's hard to say, but he's one of the other names.
Yeah, I think for me first, Warby Parker. Did you see his quote the other day about the squad? He basically just admitted that their squad's worse than it was when they got promoted and they're in big trouble. And I think, again, he's another manager that isn't afraid to say what they really do think in the media. And I think that's, that quite often leads to more tensions. And I think wouldn't surprise if he's gone by October. And again, I don't want to completely write Bournemouth off because that's completely unfair, but it just wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But yeah, well, fair enough. That is all we've got time for. Slightly longer episode today, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, one where we are putting our necks on the line. Don't think there was too many outrageous shouts in there, but it's nice to see a little bit of difference rather than everyone thinking the same thing. Otherwise, it would be quite boring in the end. But yeah, it's all back tomorrow for us. Today, when you're listening, all looking forward to it. Hope you are too. I'm buzzing to be back on that ground on Sunday. As much as I don't think we're great at the minute, but as soon as the ball kicks off and we can stop talking about transfers, that'd be lovely. But yeah. Just before we wrap up, prediction for the first game for your club, Tay?
3-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, Matt, tomorrow night, Palace.
Friday nights never go well, but 3-1 Arsenal.
I think we'll get it done on the first day, but it'll all come crashing down after that. 2-0 United. Elanga goal.
Bloody hell,
don't know what's gonna happen with
that
Ronaldo.
is outrageous.
That's a show and a half.
He's going to start at this rate
Yeah,
with
I think
Martial
that's
out. But who knows whether we'll see Cristiano or not. We'll see about that. But yeah, that is all we got time for today. Thank you very much for listening. Let us know what you agree and disagree with. I'm sure there'll be plenty of disagreements, especially if you're probably a Villa or Bournemouth fan listening to this. Sorry if we've been too harsh, but I suppose that's the end of the game, to be honest. But yeah, if you want to check us out on social media, you can on Twitter at TM4Pod, and you can find all our other links there to other socials. And yeah, other than that, have a great weekend. Enjoy the start of football, and we'll see you next week for another one.